Hi everyone, and welcome to another Stand Up Pocket workshop. As a reminder again, Zaynab and Talia. Last time I addressed the stereotypes about the Muslim community and broke them down in this safe space. Just a reminder again that we're back in the safe space and we want to discuss the stereotypes about the Jewish community. Now remember, these are not ideas that you believe, but perhaps you've heard things about the Jewish community, maybe in films, from people, etc. So I'm going to pass it over to Talia to define anti-Semitism, and then we'll move on with the activity.
Fantastic. So anti-Semitism is the word that we use to describe any form of discrimination, any horrible or malicious act aimed towards the Jewish community. So it's just the same as anti-Muslim hate, as Zainab defined in the last episode. But it's a really confusing word because it doesn't say anti-Jewish or anti-Judaism or anti-Jew. But the reason why we use this word, so someone who is Semitic means someone who comes from the Middle East or that kind of relates there. I am not Semitic, as I said in episode 3. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, which means my family comes from Eastern Europe. But because I'm Jewish, if I face discrimination, it would be classed as anti-Semitism. Now we use this word because of this called Wilhelm Marr. He was like a journalist writing in 1879. Now, anti-Jewish feelings had been around for hundreds of years before, but he wanted to move away from those feelings and create something new. And what he did was he made a new title for it. So even though these ideas have been around for a long time before, he coined the term anti-Semitism, and it is the word we use today. Now, the stereotypes.
Just
Zainab,
before we look at the stereotypes, Talia, I
yeah.
just want to remind everyone, so a stereotype is an oversimplified idea about a group of people, so saying everyone within a particular group all act the same, behave the same, etc. So we want to look at some of these stereotypes about the Jewish community. So Talia, embrace yourself there for a second, and I'm going to click next and different post-it notes will come up. So we'll start with this one. They control the world and the banks.
Oh, that's a heavy one to start with. Thanks for throwing that in there. This is a really interesting one. So conspiracy theories. So all of you who are watching, who like to go down deep holes on YouTube, watching like Illuminati videos, this one's for you. There are lots of conspiracy theories surrounding the Jewish community, that they control the world, control the banks, which are not true and are used to kind of in a really negative way towards the Jewish community.
Talia, I was actually just going to ask, is it a bad thing to say that Jews are rich? What's wrong with being rich, or having people think that?
There's nothing wrong with being rich. I presume we'll talk about that a bit later as well, because I think that's a bit different to controlling banks. I think there's kind of different connotations there. There's nothing wrong with it, but to say that there is a community who's trying to take over the world is a really malicious and sinister thing to say, and is why it is kind of a big part of anti-Semitism. But
I also think it's a way to scapegoat communities by saying they've got like a plan to take over, to harm people, etc. And therefore anything that happens, we're completely blaming that community for it, even though it has no links to them. And these actually conspiracies don't have a basis for them, but instead they were fake, obviously. Exactly. Next stereotype, let's see what we have. Women are bold.
I promise you this is my real hair. I'm tugging on it even though you can't feel it. So in the Jewish community, it is customary for women who are married, which is not me, to cover their hair once they are married. So some women will choose to cover it with a hat, some will choose to cover it with a piece of cloth kind of wrapped around, quite similar to a hijab, and some will choose to wear a wig. It's actually called a shaitel in Hebrew. So all kind of different ways. Those women who do wear wigs, some of them will just cut their hair a bit shorter to wear the wig underneath, just so it's more comfortable. There is nothing that says you have to shave your head, but it is definitely a misconception that all Jewish women do this. Any of you who have watched the Netflix series Unorthodox will see that when Esther gets married, she has her head shaved off, and then she wears a wig. So it does happen in some sections of the community, but really important to remember not all. And as a modern Orthodox Jew, I definitely will not shave my head or wear a wig when I get married, but I will wear a hat when I go to synagogue or I go to a place of religious kind of importance, such as kind of a cemetery, etc.
I think personally for me, it's really interesting hearing about how you will do things differently, because often, especially with modesty rules, people think that people do things in the same way. Just similarly with a hijab, people wear it as a turban, they'll cover half of their head, etc.
Exactly.
Right, next stereotype. Don't use electricity.
Oh, this is a great one. So this comes from the Shabbat or the Sabbath rules. So from sundown on Friday night to sundown on Saturday night is Jewish kind of holy day of worship. So it's a day that I would go to synagogue, and it's meant to be a day of rest. So it's meant to be a day that you don't do anything, you chill, you rest, you pray, you be with your family. And part of the not resting back in the olden days was not making a fire, not making a spark, not making a fire, because that was associated with work, etc. So now that has translated into modern day to on a Shabbat, on the Saturday, to not use electricity. So I refrain from driving, getting public transport. Some people I know will not use any electricity at all, so no lights, no ovens, no kettles, no phones, no laptops, no nothing. I'm not that strict. I try and be off my phone as much as possible, but sometimes I can't resist like an Instagram scroll. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. Important to remember that people practice differently, but I definitely use electricity throughout the week, which is how I'm filming this.
If you ask me, it does sound like a dream to be isolated from kind of the external world and just being with family. I know I've had a taste of that during lockdown, not by choice, but it has happened.
No, honestly, it has felt like every day has been a Shabbat for the past 2 weeks, 2 months even. Not
Remember when I used to say, Talia, how do you do it? Well, now we're all doing it.
You know.
Next stereotype. They don't like other religions. Really interesting, because I get that about the Muslim community as well.
I think that with both our communities, they're seen to be quite insular, so quite keeping to themselves and only caring about each other. I also hear that Jewish people hate the Muslim community, or the Muslim community hate the Jewish community. I think there's sometimes, and there definitely is tension. There definitely are people in our communities who wouldn't get along, but the same for any kind of extremes of any religion. We obviously get along very well and work for an Interfaith charity.
Most of the time.
Yeah, this is true. But I think that with not liking other religions, there's, in Jewish law, it says to love your neighbour as yourself, very similar to teachings in Christianity and in Islam across the three Abrahamic religions. So I've been brought up in a household to kind of, think about everyone as your neighbour, no matter what the religion. So I think that is a generalisation.
Brilliant. And next stereotype, I think we've got 2 more. So have big noses.
Have big noses. Maybe you're all staring at my nose. I'll come in a bit closer. I don't think it's that big. No, so this stereotype is, again, quite a sinister one, actually. So it kind of it goes back to the 1800s, to pseudoscience, where scientists said there was such thing as a Jewish nose or a Jewish skull. And pseudoscience was science that has been proven to be fake and a whole load of rubbish. And this was kind of used to other the Jewish community and to say that the big nose made them inferior or different or ugly. And then Hitler actually used this in propaganda during the Holocaust to dehumanise the Jewish community. So you'll often see this idea that Jewish people have big noses in memes now, particularly online. And it's actually really important to think about where it comes from, because it's definitely kind of an anti-Semitic trope. And the last post-it note.
So we've got, they are all rich, stingy, or greedy.
So we kind of touched upon this a little bit before when we were talking about the banks. Again, I hear this one so many times. And actually the link between Jews and money goes back all the way before Hitler, before the Holocaust, all the way to medieval Europe, where many Jewish people were moneylenders. So this meant that it was one of the only jobs that they were allowed to do. because they were facing discrimination at the time. But they were money lenders. They were the ones collecting tax and interest, and no one really liked them because of it. So they built up this really negative reputation. And that's where this link between Jews and money comes from. And it's been used throughout history as a way to kind of blame the Jewish community for keeping money or not giving it away.
And Talia, at the time, why was it that the Jewish community had this job, this specific job of money lending?
So at the time, the church forbidden Christians from handing large sums of money, and it's against Islamic law to deal with interest. And also the Jewish community were facing a lot of discrimination at the time. They were being expelled from all different countries across Europe. And there was a lot of discrimination. They were also in the 1300s blamed for the spread of the Black Death. So all these kind of negative feelings towards the Jewish community meant that there were many jobs that they weren't allowed to do, and so they were given the least popular one, which was money lending. And obviously over time many Jewish people have fallen into other professions, but it's still used as an anti-Semitic trope today.
Definitely. We hope you learn a lot through kind of us breaking down these stereotypes. We will be back for more workshops, so stay tuned and watch our page. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.